All right, everybody, good morning. We are moving on to a new position, and this one's a little bit tricky. This one's a little bit weird. It's tight end. So, yeah, we're going to have to talk about this one for a minute here because not only do the Seahawks not need another tight end, they, as of right now, kind of can't get another tight end. Teams don't really carry four tight ends on the roster ever unless one of those tight ends has extreme flexibility to do something else, like line up as a fullback or line up as like the halfback stuff or a wide receiver or something like that. You don't see that. And I don't believe this team is going to break the mold and be the team that carries four tight ends. So right now you're looking at Noah Fant, who's on a $6.85 million option year that already got picked up and is fully guaranteed to a cut. You've got Will Dissly, who they've already committed to for at least one more season. The time to cut him was months ago. And Colby Parkinson, who is super cheap and had a nice year last year, so it doesn't make sense to move on from him either. So you're pretty locked in here with Fant as your one, Dissly as your two, and Parkinson as your three. And it's a pretty good tight end room. I'm not unhappy with those three guys at all. But here's the thing. We need money. We need money. We do. And one of the ways we can create money is trade Noah Fant. His full salary would transfer over to the team that trades for him, pick up some day 3 selection, and then use a pick to bring in a new tight end who's going to be a lot cheaper. You could save $5 to $6 million doing that pretty easily. So there is a scenario where that can happen. You can't really trade Dissly, Parkinson. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't really do anything for you. But trading Noah Fant, a guy who you don't seem very committed to, you don't seem to be that into as a player, and a guy who is making a pretty good chunk of money this year that you could shed with a trade, then it starts to make sense. And if you trade Noah Fant, you need tight end help pretty badly because you're a tight end happy team that is now down to Will Dissly, who gets hurt a lot, by the way, and Colby Parkinson, who, I mean, I like Colby Parkinson, but he's had 2 years of his 3-year career get partially derailed by injuries, and also, of course, just the fact that he might not be somebody who can play 40 plus snaps a game. That might not be him. So, yeah, if you trade Noah Fant to save money and also get an asset for him, you're then going to need to get a tight end who can play, and you're going to need one who can play pretty much immediately. So let's turn to the draft. And this is a really good draft for tight ends. We don't have a Kyle Pitts. We don't even really have a TJ Hawkinson, but I think we have a few guys who could be Hayden Hurst, by which I mean I think we have 3 guys who are going to go in the first round. This video is going to cover those 3 guys specifically. I want to talk about the 3 tight ends who are currently, I think, expected to be first-round selections in the upcoming draft. Starting with Michael Mayer of Notre Dame. This guy has been the more or less consensus number 1 tight end in this draft pretty much since the season started. 22 years old, 6'4.5", 249 pounds, 31 5/8 inch arms, 9.5 inch hands. So decent size, not huge or anything, but pretty big. Not the most athletic, 4.7 40, 1.66 10-yard split, pretty slow acceleration. Didn't even jump 33 inches, didn't broad jump 10 feet. So the athletic ability of Michael Mayer is definitely somewhere in the lower percentiles. But nevertheless, every major big board has him going in the top 30, and the aggregate currently has him going 25th. So he's doing something right, and he does a lot of somethings right. The last 2 years, he's been crazy productive. He's played in 24 games, and he's caught about 138 passes and 1,650 yards and 16 touchdowns. So he has been maybe the most productive tight end in the country the last 2 years. Gives you well over 50 receiving yards a game. He did have 4 drops last year, so he averaged 1 drop every 3 games. Not great. And his run block grade from PFF was excellent, 82.1. Excellent blocker. So the thing about Michael Mayer, and the thing that will make him appealing if we move on from Noah Fant, he's ready to go. Day 1, he's touching that football field. He's ready to start. Day one, he goes out there. He's your number one tight end, replacing Noah Fant and putting Will Dissly in that number 2 spot where he is probably better off. And, of course, Colby Parkinson is the number 3. There's no concern about him having much of a learning curve. He's just going to be ready to go. He's got great hands, very reliable hands. I know he had a few drops last year, but his hands are really good overall. With how much he gets targeted, a few drops are not the worst thing in the world. They're not the end-all, be-all of what he is. He got targeted almost 100 times last year. He's lined up in the slot, and he's lined up as an outside receiver on some of his plays, and he's been productive. So he does have the versatility to line up wide, line up in the slot, line up even as an outside receiver, just like Colby Parkinson before him, just like Noah Fant. If you throw the ball his way, he's going to find a way to at least give himself a chance to make a play. He's got good body control. He's got a good catch radius. He's willing to put his body on the line to go make a play on the ball. He does all that stuff really well. He's going to find a way to make a play on the ball, period. He's got great body control. He runs with great power after the catch. He can run over defensive backs to pick up extra yards, runs great routes, and he's also a good blocker. His run block rate was really good last year. I don't think he's the best blocking tight end in this class, but he's definitely one of the best. So Michael Mayer is bringing a ton of really good stuff to the table here. The only thing that you can really say about him is what is obvious. He's not a very good athlete. He doesn't have great speed. He doesn't have very good acceleration. So he's going to struggle occasionally to get open against man defense. You put him in man defense, he's going to be blanketed sometimes, and the quarterback's going to have to make a really good throw to get him the ball. Now, if you make that throw, he's probably going to bring it in because he's doing all these other things so well, but he's not going to be somebody who races past every linebacker and blows past safeties. He's not going to be that kind of tight end. He's not going to be Vernon Davis or Kyle Pitts. He's going to be Jason Witten more than anything. So he's a very well-rounded tight end prospect. He's got a bright future. He'll be a great possession receiver. He's going to be somebody who can line up everywhere. He just isn't going to be able to do the freakish stuff that you see from some tight end prospects. Because of that, I don't think I can take him at 20. I wouldn't take him at 20. I would take him at 37 if we needed a tight end. As for at what point I would actually take him, I would probably split the difference. If we traded back to like 29 or 30, yeah, I would do it. I just think 20 is a little too high. There's not enough popping off the page on this guy for me to take him at pick 20. So 28, 29, okay. But if he's there at 37 and we need a tight end, I'm all over it for sure. Okay, next up we have Dalton Kincaid, one of the coolest names in this draft. With a name like that, you know he's going to succeed. So I'll just lead with that. This guy's going to be a good NFL player because of his name. Utah Utes, 23 years old, 6'4", 246 pounds, 32 and 5/8 inch arms, 10 and a quarter inch hands. His PFF grade, his PFF and ESPN big board rankings are top 15. Those sites in particular love him, and all the others I use have him in the first. And on the aggregate site, he's currently 27, so he is a first-round pick on the aggregate. Very productive last year. Had almost 900 yards receiving, 70 catches, 8 touchdowns. The year before wasn't nearly as productive, but he still had the 8 touchdowns, so 16 touchdowns over the last 2 years. Passable run block rate, not great, but certainly workable for a tight end like this. He runs great routes. He has a great understanding of how to run all the different routes you got to run in the NFL. He's got a big catch radius. He's got really good hands. His body control is great. There's this one catch he made in a game in the end zone where he's like looking over his left shoulder. The ball's almost there, and then at the last second he just flips over to looking over his right shoulder, brings it in. There's some catches he makes in traffic where he's got guys all over him. There's a sea of hands, and he comes up with it. He's capable of playing through contact and still making the catch. And also, he hasn't really been playing tight end for that long. It's a relatively new position for him, so he has upside to get even better as he gains more familiarity and more comfort with the position. And I think he's a little bit of a better athlete than even Michael Mayer. Now, he's not nearly as good a blocker as you would hope. He gives effort. He tries hard. He's going to at least put the elbow grease in but he's not strong enough to block effectively. So there is a little bit of a limiting factor there. I do think there is some development with this guy as well. If you want good, really good stuff out of him, it's going to take a year, if not two. And the Seahawks are not necessarily in a position where they have that year or two to spend. So I don't know if the fit is necessarily what we need because of that time that's probably going to take. The thing that really stands out about Kincaid is that he just catches everything that goes his way. Like last year, he was targeted over 100 times and had 2 drops. And he makes a play on pretty much everything that comes his way. He'll overcome contact. That's the thing that really just stands out to me for him. But I still don't see the great athleticism. I don't see the over-the-top athletic ability to like really just burn defensive backs and really just toast linebackers over the middle. And I think he would be okay at 37 if he's still there and we need a tight end. If he's there at 37, the value is pretty on point. But even then, I would wonder, like, okay, what's this guy going to do as a rookie? Is he going to help us as a rookie? Because if not, that's a problem. We're not going to have the tight ends we need to run our offense. But Dalton Kincaid, really nice player. If he's there at 37, I would take him and try to figure it out, basically. All right, now time for the main event here. This is the third and final tight end who has a first-round grade right now. And this is the guy that Seahawks fans the world over are going crazy over that I've noticed. It's Darnell Washington of the Georgia Bulldogs. This is a guy that Seahawks fans everywhere are into. Honestly, fans of every team should be into this guy, but Darnell Washington has turned heads in a way that a guy with his production rarely does because he's just such a unique and fun and intriguing player. Georgia Bulldog, 22 years old, a 6'7", 264 pounds. The dude is huge. 34 and 3/8 inch arms, long arms, 11-inch hands. So he is big in every way imaginable. Giant hands, giant arms, big body. He's tall. He's got it all, man. And he's faster and quicker, significantly so, I think, than Michael Mayer. 4'6", 440, 157, 10-yard split, 31-inch vert, 10-foot 2-inch broad. I mean, those are not great jumping numbers, but they're good for a guy of his size. 408 20-yard shuttle, which impressed me for a guy that big. 21 bench press reps. This guy, he had himself a little bit of a party at the combine, and most of the mock drafts that I've looked at now have him in the first, and so does the aggregate. Barely. They do have him in the first. And it's not really because of his production. Last year he had 450 yards, 2 touchdowns, less than 2 catches a game, 2 drops. He had a phenomenal run blocking grade. It's right up there with Mayer. And the year before that, he gave you 1 catch a game, 150 yards in 8 games, and a touchdown. So what is so fun about Darnell Washington? It's the belief that he is got a ton of untapped potential that he just needs the opportunity to lean into here. So obviously the dude is massive. The dude is super strong. He uses that strength extremely well. He blocks like an offensive lineman. He is a 6th offensive lineman out there for the Georgia Bulldogs, and he'll be a 6th offensive lineman for his NFL team. He loves to block. He's an aggressive blocker. The only issue with that is that I think his height creates leverage issues, but he overcomes it such a high percentage of the time. If you get him the ball, he's going to break tackles. He's going to make things happen after the catch. This is not just a guy who catches quick route over the middle and falls down. He's a great athlete for his size. He's fast enough to still beat linebackers in coverage. That's a mismatch. You can also have him box out for catches against smaller defenders, and pretty much every defender is smaller than Darnell Washington. So in the NFL, he may produce far beyond what he produced at college when he gave you less than 2 catches a game in his best year. So I will say, as such a big guy, his change of direction skills are a little bit questionable, but I still think they're better than you would expect for a guy this big. So he's going to be dangerous as an inline blocking tight end who can also catch passes. I'm pretty sold on this guy because he's going to be somebody who can replace Fant and Dissly in his own ways. I wouldn't love him at 20, but I think I would be willing to do it because I'm very confident in what he gives you. All right, those are the 3 tight ends who have a first-round grade right now. Later today, we'll go into the other top 100 tight ends. See you guys then. Go Hawks.